You better believe we have a brand new Fox Business poll about the state of Wisconsin. It just came out. Ooh, bad news for Hillary Clinton. Maybe I spoke too soon about Bernie. His chances at the nomination may be slim, but he's 5 points ahead of her in the Badger State. All this as Hillary's email scandal looms overhead. And guess who we've got to talk about it tonight? On the party panel, it's Ben Domenech, the Federalist publisher. KT McFarland is here, Fox News national security analyst. And Michael Malice rounds out the panel, author of Dear Reader by his book now. Hello, everyone.
Hi. Hello.
So crazy things happening in these polls. Let's get to the heart of Wisconsin. Is this bad news for Hillary Clinton being 5 points behind Bernie?
It is bad news for Hillary Clinton. She has a situation there where she is looking at a map that looks ahead to a lot of states that are going to be good for Bernie Sanders in a lot of different ways. And because they've already finished out most of the red states in the country, most of the states that she had a lot of African-American support
for firewalls and whatnot?
Exactly. It's now to a point where Sanders is going to continue to win. And as he goes along, it's just going to be an expression of how frustrated Democratic voters really are that they even have to make this choice. They would rather be with, their heart really wants to be with Bernie Sanders and the kind of economic socialism that he's promising, but they have a situation with the superdelegates where Hillary has an enormous advantage given the system that they have set up.
She does. When did the superdelegates bleed over to Bernie? Does that ever happen, or does she just have it locked up and this is meaningless?
It happened with Barack Obama.
Yeah.
But then what happens, though, if Hillary is indicted?
I don't think Bernie gets nomination even then. I really don't. I think he's considered to be so extreme by that establishment left that they find a way to do exactly what the Republican Party is trying to do right now with Trump. And the superdelegates very different than the uncommitted delegates on the Republican side, obviously, and a lot of those people aren't going to shift their vote to Bernie, where they could have in the first place. Is Bernie Sanders the cult figure that I've made him out to be?
I don't think he is. I think both front runners in both parties right now are cult figures. Hillary Clinton, very much with her mouse suits, is coming off as a cult of personality figures. The only people who follow her are these insane loyalists who see no evil, hear no evil, or speak no evil about her. And on the other hand, you have
the Jacobins.
Yes, so to speak, the sans-culottes. And on the other hand, you have Trump, who has built, this God Emperor cult likes we haven't seen since, Wendell Willkie in 1940.
It's really interesting because I was going over some material from Rick Ross, who is the cult expert, not the rapper, although I'm sure he's culty in and of his own right. And it's funny because if you go down the checklist of what makes a cult leader, Donald Trump is actually closer to a cult leader based on how his followers are. The one thing that I would say about Hillary's cult is that is manufactured by her, whereas Bernie is he is truly elevated by people who
Well, so is Trump, and I think a cult is just like kind of a movement that's unpopular with the establishment by definition, right?
Yeah. How does this end on the Democratic side?
You mean as far as the cult and Hillary? I think the big question is what happens with her and the FBI.
Yeah.
I think there are three scenarios that we're looking at. One, the FBI sends its report to the Justice Department, and the Justice Department decides it's going to prosecute. Bad for Hillary. The FBI sends its report to the Justice Department, and the Justice Department says, nothing much here. Let's all look the other way. At which point, you could have a Saturday night-like massacre where the head of the FBI could resign, a number of senior FBI officials, and the 150 FBI agents who are working on this all go and leak. The third is that Obama pardons everybody.
That would be the most unfortunate, and that would be such a lack of justice in this country.
Yes,
that
absolutely.
if you want to thrust the revolution in a quicker fashion, as Susan Sarandon does, that's all you have to do.
I'll just say, though, that if you're going to make a distinction between these cults, I have to say that Bernie Sanders has much better memes, much better swag. I actually had a guest who, on my radio show this past week who's a big fan of Bernie Sanders, Cassandra Fairbanks, and she made these leggings that have Bernie Sanders' face all over them. You can actually buy them online today, and they're quite popular among his set. So his swag is definitely much better than Hillary's.
As the only troll on this panel, I think I can speak on memes, and Donald Trump has been crowned the king of 4chan's poll board, where they refer to him as God Emperor every day. So if you want to see some really good memes,
some of the Donald memes, they are extraordinary. My favorite, of course, were the Jeb Bush ones, but...
What about when he's pointing the car at the viewer and says, "Get in the car, we're making America great again"?
Yes.
All right. Well, please don't miss the live FBN coverage of the Wisconsin primary. It's happening next Tuesday, starting at 8 p.m. Eastern. I will be joining Neil Cavuto that night. And coming up, we're going to dig more into that brand new Fox Business poll about the GOP race in Wisconsin. Hitting the other side. It's bad news for Trump as his controversial abortion comments linger on. Please stay tuned for that. And a little later, I'm going to show you a special sneak peek of the Stossel Libertarian presidential debate. Oh, babe, it's going to be a busy night. Stay right here. Welcome back. A brand new Fox Business poll has Ted Cruz beating Donald Trump pretty handily in Wisconsin by a solid 10 points. 10 points, 10 points. Look what I did there. This comes after an uncomfortable interview for Donald Trump where he said he would ban abortion and punish women who got abortions illegally. Then he reversed course and said, no, it was the doctors who would be punished, not the women, if participating in illegal procedures. Our panel is back. Ben Domenech, KT McFarland, and Michael Malice. So, Ben, I will start with you. These are bad numbers for Donald Trump, yes. And this is a very fresh poll.
I think this is a very interesting poll for a number of reasons. First off, Wisconsin is a critical state within a general election contest. You would have gauged support, based on the assumption of a Midwestern state that has seen, past support go to people like Donald Trump. This is a situation where now he really is flailing. He's in a significant slide. He's down 19 points compared to Cruz among women, and I think that that's a slide that's only going to continue. He's now at a point where basically half of Republican women say that they're uncomfortable voting for him.
Yeah.
You have high negatives perceptions that are above 70%. This is unlike anything that you've seen before among a front-running candidate, certainly one who could see any success for the general election. And the real question now is, if he loses in Wisconsin, as we could expect, to Ted Cruz, Donald Trump could go from March 22nd to April 19th when New York votes without giving a single victory speech.
Oh,
those are the sorts of things that really help a candidate like him make him seem more feasible as a general election
And,
candidate.
this is something
that
I asked last night. What does he do? Like, how many stunts can he pull between now and then? Because this has not been a week where he has eclipsed the news cycle through his own means. That there are outside circumstances or things that he has said that he's had to walk back. And that's an uncomfortable position for him. You were in Wisconsin.
Yeah, I was just in Wisconsin 2 weeks ago giving some speeches to business groups and met a number of the political leaders. So the governor was there. The talk show radio is particularly powerful in Wisconsin, as well as business leaders and bankers. And these are the people who should be the good old Midwestern, middle class, who you would think would be inclined to like Trump, and pretty universally did not for a whole lot of reasons. And most of the time endorsements have not mattered this time around. In Wisconsin, they matter because there's a very large infrastructure that can be used. Most, senator, congressman comes out and says, oh, I'm for so-and-so. There's no infrastructure behind it. But in Wisconsin, there is a very large and potent infrastructure that's just run 3 campaigns.
And you also have a previous presidential candidate who's a polarizing governor in that state, and the fact that he's fought and won 3 elections in a row, I mean, that actually means something. So how does this fairy tale end?
Well, I think we have California coming up, we have New York coming up, we have New Jersey coming up. These are going to be states that are going to be very strong for Trump. Maybe Kasich would have better traction than, but certainly not Cruz. And we've heard this many times that, this is the state that's going to stop Trump's ascension. It's supposed to happen in Iowa, it's supposed to happen in Texas.
Do you think that's still the case, though, if New York ends up in the situation where he loses 20 delegates to Cruz, which is very feasible given the way they apportion?
I think Trump has a 40-point lead in New York right now.
Yeah,
hold on, let me finish, please. If you look at that poll that just came out in Wisconsin, of all the people who are definitely voting for their candidate, Trump has the strongest and most loyal level support, and that's a very key number. So the other people are often voting strategically against Trump, but Trump's people are voting for Trump.
You can. Wisconsin, it's an open primary, so you can be the most ardent Bernie Sanders supporter, and you go in and say, I'd like to vote for Trump, or I'd like to vote for Cruz, and you can do that.
So all those Democrats who want to put a monkey wrench into the system, they're going to go for Trump.
And you have people on both sides. I mean, the difference with the Democrats is there aren't a lot of Democrats showing up in the first place, let alone those who are going to peel off and vote in a Republican primary. And, it's actually a larger margin for Cruz among those who say they are definitely going to vote. And, I think that's a more substantial block from the people say they will definitely vote for this candidate, but that sort of loyalty doesn't necessarily translate to people actually getting out and voting.
But I'm talking about in future states. I mean, that's just showing that the Trump people have made their choice and they're sticking to it. It's going to be very hard to kind of dissuade them.
And the reason I think this is interesting is because if Cruz lost Wisconsin, if he loses Wisconsin, Trump, it's much easier for Trump to seal the nomination.
Then it's over.
Mathematically, on his own, then there's no contested convention. Does it make it impossible to not have a contested convention?
Well, I think that this whole past week, and actually I would extend it the last 2 weeks, has dramatically increased the likelihood of a contested convention. If your expectation was that the point at which Donald Trump came out of Arizona, that he would work to basically undermine the people who are opposing him by giving unifying speeches, talking about things like, here's my list of Supreme Court nominees. You all have to sort of get behind me, undermining the opposition.
Yeah.
He's done the opposite. He's driven up his negatives among suburban women. He's made himself look more like a general election candidate who could put the House and the Senate into play for Republicans. And that's the point at which a number of these leading Republicans will come out and basically say, we have to pull out the stops because none of us want to lose the House.
All right, you have 5 seconds.
I was just going to say Cruz and Trump would cut a deal and make sure that Cruz would take the VP. He's venal enough to do it.
Oh, venal. That's a
or
good
the
word.
Supreme Court.
Yeah, exactly.
No mercy. He's going to put a liberal on the court and we're all going to die. That returns a little bit later. There are new and bizarre developments on that plane hijacker selfie photo. And we've got the video to prove it. But first, California is set to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Is it on track for a West Coast workers' utopia? Or are they swirling the toilet? I'll take the latter. We'll break down the economics in moments.
The rhythm variation. Waking in the morning, I still represent the nation. When I speak a nation, please don't make the deviation. Rebels of the party who create the drum sensation.
Lyrics to go, baby. Here we go. Welcome back. Earlier this week, a lovelorn man hijacked an Egypt air flight and redirected it to the island his ex-wife lived on, because that always works. One brave passenger took a picture with the flying nut job, and footage has since emerged of flight attendants helping him take the photo. One of those flight attendants took a picture with the hijacker as well, because celebrity. But she said she only did it so the crew could relay the image to authorities, which is actually pretty smart if you think about it. I don't think she was thinking about it at the time, but whatevs. The party panel is back. Ben Dominant, KT McFarland, and Michael Malice. Well, was this a good idea for that young man to step up and embrace the hijacker's newfound celebrity?
I know all my plane hijacking jokes are going to be edited out, so I'm just going to play this one seriously. It's a very...
Really? I'm disappointed.
Well, they're going to get cut. The point is, it's a very smart idea when you're a hostage to become personalized with your captor and have them see you as a real person and interact with them on a human level so they don't do crazy things.
Yeah.
And of course, having photographic evidence is a very smart idea. You know, we have proof of who this guy is. And the new thing is going to be, instead of if you see something, Snapchat something now, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, the co-pilot sent the photograph via WhatsApp.
Did he really?
Yeah, to Cyprus and Egypt. That's what killed me, is they actually used WhatsApp.
Now they know WhatsApp.
Not encrypted at all. Was this young man trying to annoy that hijacker to death?
You know, I don't know. The young man, I think, is different than the flight attendant. The flight attendant, if that explanation is accurate, you can understand why she would do that, and it's helpful to do that. But this guy, I mean, come on, that would not be my first instinct. You know, can I take this picture with this guy who wants to blow us up? I don't think I want to remember that scenario in that way. I certainly don't want to be smiling through
What
it.
would be your first instinct, though? There's nothing you can do.
I'd tackle the guy.
I jam him in the sternum with a pencil. I always keep a sharpened pencil because they've taken so many knives away.
Okay.
TSA. Thanks for nothing. All right, so celebrity culture, it's so
Yeah, but
pervasive.
here's why this is really scary. How did that guy get on the plane with a suicide vest on, number one?
Yeah.
Number two, what was the mechanism in place to, once they realized he had a suicide vest, take him down, get him down? Three, the fact that we're all yucking it up and thinking this is all so funny. What does that say? Any bad guy now has just watched this and said, oh, I guess I know how to get on.
The threshold has been lowered.
The threshold is lowered, but also if I'm a bad guy who really does want to have explosives in my suicide vest, I've just gotten the
Okay, but
playbook and blueprint of how to do it.
where I agree with you. I do think that after 9/11, everyone assumed if someone's being a dipstick on a plane,
They're a bad guy.
everyone tackles them.
Yes.
Like you all just pig pile on the. I can't think of anything but bad words. Right now.
Jerk.
On the jerk face, and everyone piles on. They put little
There's nothing
zip
left
ties.
to lose, right? You're gonna die
but
if you
now people are like, oh, we're just chatting with hijackers, and they're friends and celebrities, but that makes you shake your head.
Well, I was just shaking my head. Like, thanks a lot for making hijacking a plane not funny anymore.
Oh my God.
That's what made me sad.
I know, but sometimes KT has to. She has
security
to.
I mean,
Exactly.
don't the room. Really?
She's the one with the navy pin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bad jokes about Korean despots.
And some good ones.
And some good ones. No, I take that back. That was rude. Here's a good one. Lakers point guard D'Angelo Russell. You can see him there on the left of your screen. Recently posted a private conversation that he had with his teammate Nick Young to Snapchat. Woo! Apparently is a prank, right? But then, of course, the video went viral because the conversation, Nick Young is apparently talking about cheating on his fiancée, who happens to be rapper Iggy Azalea. Is nothing sacred anymore, Ben?
You know, this is a situation where you have to feel bad for these multimillionaire NBA players who no longer have a safe space to talk about these issues.
Listen to Bernie Sanders
come
here.
on, play is going to play and slide is going to slide.
The 1%,
so it's one of these
man.
situations
Got to
where
stick it to the 1%.
It's one of these situations where I mean, honestly, I had to watch Nick Young play basketball for years, which was not a very encouraging event for me in Washington. But I do have some sympathy for them in this situation, in the sense that there is no presence now where you cannot be filmed at any time within any conversation or recorded or something like that. And exactly, you have to be on your toes.
Yeah, no, you have to assume that at every moment, everything you do is being photographed. And if you're a famous person, if I'm Iggy Azalea, I'm thinking like, I am the only one on earth that can keep him from straying. But no, he was apparently, and the entire team has shamed D'Angelo Russell. They wouldn't. They're ostracizing him. They wouldn't even eat with him.
Oh, gee, how terrible. But what about somebody suing all this? What didn't we just watch Gawker go through a very similar thing where somebody was taped who shouldn't have been doing what he was doing, and then it was released? Well, what happens here? Somebody was taped talking about stuff he shouldn't have been talking about.
So who has the accountability? The website that published the video, or the knucklehead who filmed his friend going, "Tell me more about that 19-year-old girl. She sounds pretty." Ding ding ding. Do you think it was a prank, or do you think he's a moralist who was trying to?
Coming from the Soviet Union, wearing a wire on your boy is like the lowest thing you could possibly do. And I say this as someone who goes to the mall at Christmas to tell the kids that that's not really Santa. It's not! Wake up, kids!
And just when I was going to ask you to babysit.
Sorry about it.
Make fun of
Dodging a bullet there.
Do you say he's a communist because he's in a red suit too? Come on.
Obviously.
Well, he gives out kids presents to everybody with no pay in return.
Oh my gosh, Bernie Sanders should totally strap on a white beard and red suit.
He is Santa.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, that's Robin Hood stuff. It's Santa Claus.
The problem with Santa Claus is eventually you run out of other people's presents.
Christmas is the ultimate Ponzi scheme, right?
Yeah.
That's so sad. My children are watching this now going,
Hi, Pele. Hi, Lotus.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, I won't see Uncle Michael anytime soon. Family picnic. All right, you guys, this was delightful and engaging and refreshing. And I want to thank Michael Malice, KT McFarland, and Ben Domenech.
Good to be with you.
Learn something, and I feel like a better person. Coming up later, I'm going to read through the literally billions and billions of uplifting messages that you faxed me just this morning. Like this one from Your Freedom. It says, at Kennedy Nation, I dig your show's theme song. But first, the man in black. He is back. Nick Gillespie joins me to discuss a controversial program the feds have reinstated. It allows cops to take your stuff and your money and never give it back for no reason. Nick is next.